Which Caribbean island has the best carnival? This is what we're going to be talking about in this video. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Clementine Afana, but you can call me Dr. Clem, and I teach busy people like you how to find remote work opportunities so that you can earn more and afford your dreams. One of my dreams has been to travel around the world, and I've been able to do that by working remotely at different stages of my life. If you are interested in this adventure, make sure that you subscribe and turn on your post notifications so that you are the first one to know every single time I release a video about remote work and companies hiring. I also share experiences about everywhere I'm going and places where you can go for short weekend getaways or vacations so that you can maximize your time and live your best life. So if you want to be a part of this amazing adventure, make sure that you also subscribe and turn on your post notifications. Finally, as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, I am having a unique and amazing conference happening in March of this year, 2023, in Dominica at the Fort Young Hotel. If you are a business owner, whether you just started or you have been in business for a while, but you haven't been able to meet your income goals and your impact goals, this conference is for you. We have an amazing lineup of speakers who are going to talk about how you can pivot even when the economy is hard, how you can scale your business regardless of what other people are doing, how you can pitch to big companies, land corporate deals, and make a lot more money and have a lot more impact. If you want to be a part of this adventure, I'm going to include the link to this event in the description box of this video. Sign up, save your spot. We only have 30 spots available because this is an in-person event. And if you're not a business owner but you know somebody who is, make sure you share this with them. Now let's go to the gist of the topic. Carnival. Carnival is an event that or a cultural celebration that I wasn't familiar with until I moved to the Caribbean. For those of you who don't know, I am of African descent. I was born and raised in Africa, and I moved to the Caribbean, specifically Dominica, the Nature Isle, my second home, where I spent most of my formative years. I moved there to study medicine. So I'm a doctor now. That's why people call me Dr. Clem, you know, like I'm an actual doctor. But travel is my passion, and I always talk about sustainable travel, things to do wherever you are going and stuff like that, all that good shooby-dooby-doo. But Carnival is such a huge part of the Caribbean culture, and what we are seeing right now is Carnival being so monetized, so commercialized as this big fiesta. Perspective of somebody who is not from the Caribbean or who is trying to have this experience, it might be difficult for you to figure out which island has the best Carnival. It helps you to plan your trips. It helps you to figure out where you want to go and really maximize your experience. So this is what we're going to be talking about in this video. Now, I have been living in Dominica for the past years now, and Dominica Carnival has really stood out to me for many reasons, which I'm going to share with you in this video. The first reason is in Dominica, Carnival is really traditional. For those of you who are not very familiar with Caribbean history, the Caribbean people are of African descent, and they were brought to the Caribbean as part of the slave trade. The history of Carnival actually comes from Asian or European traditions where they celebrated Mardi Gras, right? Like the Tuesday before Lent. So basically the concept is that before Lent, which is a sacrificial time in the Christian culture, you want to just kind of like have all the excesses that you want in terms of food, in terms of fashion, in terms of costuming, in terms of celebrations, because you know that you are going into 40 days, 40 days of fasting and of just self-preservation and so forth. So that's why the celebration was called Mardi Gras, like Fat Tuesday. But when you look at the influences now that play a role within the Caribbean Carnival, because from colonial heritage you have the European side and the African side. Lower class, which were the slaves, were not allowed to really celebrate with the upper classes and the bourgeois. So as a result of that, what they usually used to do is that they used to celebrate in their own way. So they used to paint themselves with oil. They used to paint themselves with burned sugarcane leftovers. They used to also like either dress all in black and so forth. And they used to have their own parade, their own jump up, right? So that's kind of like where the concept of the black devils came in, because when they would paint themselves, they would look all like black because of what they would put on themselves. And then the devil part of it was a way to satirize or kind of like make fun, not really make fun, but like as a way to depict their masters who were kind of like imputing devilish treatment upon them. So that's kind of like where the term black devils came from. The Caribbean islands got their independence, right? They turned the Carnival into a celebration of freedom, so an opportunity for them to actually be able to express themselves more, because during those times they really couldn't. The Carnival in Dominica, which is called the real mass, actually retained a lot of these traditional elements that are tied into the European heritage and the African heritage. So when you travel to Dominica for Carnival, the real mass, also called Mass Dominique, you're going to see an expression or different levels of expression of that historical perspective of the Carnival, which is one of the things that I love. Now, what are those key elements that play a role in the historical perspective of the Carnival? Number one, you have the sensei. Now, the sensei is this energetic costume made of like different layers that you will see as one of like the traditional things of the Dominican Carnival. So the logo of the Dominican Carnival is actually a sensei. And what really is a sensei? So the word sensei actually originates from the Twi language in Ghana, and it represents a fall with ruffled feathers, which has a symbolic meaning in the Twi culture. They used to make sensei costumes with sisal ropes that came from the Cisalana plant. But today they're making the costumes out of banana leaves, out of rice bags, and different other elements, even out of cloth. So you can see like different types of Caribbean print cloths, Dominican Madras cloth, and even African print cloth. And the sensei is a really imposing element of the Caribbean culture, and specifically in Dominica, as it ties back to the African heritage. Now, when you look at senseis are usually adorned or crowned, for as a better word, with horns, right, or masks. So the people who wear the senseis, they usually wear masks or like headpieces made of horns. And in the African culture, the masks or the horns have different meanings. So for example, if you have like a bull horns, it can represent strength, resilience. Antelope horns can represent abundance, like just like wealth and a lot of good things. And the masks as well have different meanings. So you can actually see how this historical figure in Dominica's Carnival ties back to the African ancestry, which is really where we all come from. So that is the first element that we need to talk about, is something that I mentioned earlier, and it's the darkies or the black devils. Now, according to the island where you are, the darkies or the black devils are going to have a different name. So in Dominica, they are called the darkies. Grenada, they call the jab jab. In Trinidad, they call the jab molassie. Molassie to symbolize the fact that they actually used to paint themselves with molasses that are used in the process of like rum formation and so forth. So then where does the term devil come from? Because when they used to paint themselves in black, right, in a way it was kind of like a way to represent the devilish treatment that they used to be subject to. The term jab in French, it's derived from diable, which means devil in French. So that's why they are called either jab jab, which is also black devils. The third element that stands out in Dominica's Carnival as the real mass and one of the best carnivals in the Caribbean is the Moko Jumbi or stilt walkers. So Moko means diviner, right? And Jumbi is also derived from the word Zumbi, which means ghost or spirit. So the Moko Jumbis are actually those spiritual creatures that protect and oversee the entire community and the entire village in a way to be able to foresee danger and to protect them from it. So when you look at the Moko Jumbi, which actually walk on the stilts, right, they are tall because according to that spiritual belief, they can metamorphose from human shape to a divine, like a different type of godly shape, not God the Almighty, but a different type of, non-holy godly shape that, allows them to really just be like taller and be able to do things that are not understandable to the human eye. So that's where the divinity and the spirituality aspect of it comes from. And then when they are done with that, they can actually go back to their human shape. So that's why when you see the Moko Jumbis or the stilt walker dance, right, they usually like sometimes they will dance like up. I mean, they're already tall because the stilts are really, really tall, but they will dance up, but then sometimes they will bend down. So it kind of like shows that, okay, you know, we come back to our human shape. So that is the historical or African spirituality aspect of the Moko Jumpy or the stilt walk. The fourth cultural element that makes the Dominican Carnival stand out is the Lapo Cabri. Now, Lapo Cabri comes from the French, which means lapo cabri, right? Lapo means skin and cabri means goat, so it's goat skin. So basically Lapo Cabri is a group or like a band, a traditional band that makes music out of instruments made from goat skin. Music is part of our DNA, music is part of who we are, music is how we express ourselves. So because they were not able to have their own traditional elements, they made musical instruments out of anything, like drums and stuff like that, out of anything, and they were able to produce a joyful and a beautiful sound. So when you hear the Lapo Cabri, right, you will usually see that traditional drum that is kind of like made out of goat skin, and you will also see other elements like the tins, like things that make the, you see, if you take a biscuit tin, right, or like a sardine tin, and you start to beat it with a fork or a spoon, or if you take the grater, you know, when you want to do your fruits, your carrot salad and whatnot, the grater, right, and you start to beat it, it makes sound, right? So they also used to make music out of tins like that, just as a way to have a musical instrument to be able to express themselves and to create joy around them. So the fifth element that I wanted to point out to you that makes the Dominican Carnival so unique and considered a real mass in the Caribbean is the Papi Show wedding. Now, I'm gonna release throughout this Carnival season in Dominica, a few vlogs about different things that are happening in Dominica during the Carnival season. So you want to make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss a thing. During the Juve celebration, you will see people dressed as bride and groom, right? And those are elements of the Papi Show wedding. Papi Show wedding is kind of like a fake wedding. Again, another way to satirize, I guess, the Western wedding style. And generally, the more hideous the costume is, really, the more appealing. A bonus item that I didn't mention, I mean, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, is the Juve, right, which is the opening celebration. Juve means jour ouvert, right, opening of the day. So in French, it's jour ouvert. We combine the two words and it gives you Juve, so opening of the day. And really what Juve represents is basically the fact that you are waking up, dancing, chanting, chipping at the sound of the Lapo Cabri, you know, with just everybody on the road dancing and just kind of like celebrating freedom and so forth. The first day you have Juve morning, where you wake up, you have to wake up on time. You wake up like, you know, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., you start dancing, chipping, you can wear whatever costume you want, you know, because really it's freedom, you can wear whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable in, or you can also join the Juve band, and then you dance until 7, 8, sometimes you go up to 10 a.m. in the morning, right? And after that, you go and rest, and then you come back for the jump up later on that day. Then it's day 2 of the parade, where we wear now the other types of costumes, which we're going to talk about in another video. But to circle back to this specific video, in the Dominican Carnival, you also have Juve morning, which is a big deal because during Juve morning, you can actually see different types of costumes. You can see the senseis, you can see the wabwa, you can just see like it's like an explosion of culture, which you absolutely need to see if you are traveling to Dominica for Carnival. Before we end this video, I wanted to talk about a few other items that make Dominica's Carnival unique, and then you're gonna circle back and you're gonna let me know what makes your island's Carnival maybe the best in the Caribbean. The first thing is pageantry. Now, I have never seen a country or another island that takes pageantry as seriously as Dominica does. In Dominica, we have the National Queen Show, which is the biggest pageant of the season. But in addition to the National Queen Show, you also have other pageants that really kind of just add spices to the Carnival celebration. Big element of Dominica's Carnival season, and that is Calypso. Now, Calypso is like, I mean, Calypso, so just, I did literature in high school, right? I was kind of okay at it, not so good, but I had my moments. But anyways, so in high school I learned about satire as like a literature style, a way for people to express themselves, or a form of expression, you know, of people in the creative field, where you make fun of what is going wrong with the society and is allowed in democratic society. Satire is in France what Calypso is in Dominica and with the rest of the Caribbean. So during the Calypso season, the Calypso competition, what happens is that different artists like singers and performers create create different songs in the calypso genre, which usually depict the bad things that are within the society, the problems that we need to address in the society. But because it's depicted in a crafty way, in a fun way, it kind of makes it more digestible and more easy and entertaining for people to accept and to live with. So Calypso season is a really fun season, and attending the different Calypso shows is a great way to also get to understand the society better and to support the art platform. So we have an entire Calypso competition for adults. You also have Calypso competitions for women, and you also have junior Calypso competitions for people who are not yet at the age to be able to enter into the adult competition. And finally, this is something that has been growing on the island since I have been living in Dominica. That is fetes, aka parties. And so during the Carnival season, you kind of like have parties, different types of theme parties that you can be a part of, you know, if you want to have a different experience. In a separate video, just like we did for the Creole season, if you haven't watched that series or the Creole season in Dominica, make sure you definitely check it out. I'm going to put the link in the description box of this video. But in a separate video, I'm going to tell you about how you can choose which parties or which events you want to attend based on what you like, and I'm going to share my recommendations as well. So that's it, guys. It wraps up this video on the key elements that make the Dominica's Carnival season unique. I want you to let me know which island do you think has the best carnival in the Caribbean and why. Let's chat in the comments.